Number 4, the New England Patriots.
This is where the draft actually begins. I think everyone knows number 1, and I think everyone knows 2 and 3, just maybe they switch up. Number 4 is where the draft begins, and it's where we actually don't know. I really want to see the Patriots draft Arizona wide receiver McMillan. I really want to see it. However, no one else agrees with me. Every expert out there has them taking Will Campbell from LSU. I've seen a ton of mock drafts naming Will Campbell, LSU, going to New England. A few weeks ago, I predicted Will Campbell to fall to New Orleans or even San Francisco at 19, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, but the experts have shifted my thinking to go with Will Campbell at number 4 overall. I don't think he's the best tackle in this draft, but I absolutely think he's going to be the first tackle off the board. And who the best tackle is in this draft, I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But I do think my most confident pick of the night is Will Campbell at number 4 overall to New England, pending any wild trades.
Gotcha. And I agree with you. Will Campbell is, even though this is technically where the draft begins, I do still think that Will Campbell not only is the best tackle available, but is the selection at 4. While a surprise skill player could go off the board, I just don't know if you can say anybody else truly. I don't think the San Francisco 49ers pick at 19, Tyler. Did you mean another number?
I don't fully remember exactly where San Francisco was. I know I did have Will Campbell falling to San Francisco and New
They pick
Orleans.
at 11, so
yes, yeah, I am seeing that now. It's New Orleans at 9 and San
and
Francisco
San
at
Fran
11.
at
So
11.
I think that New Orleans 9 made me think 19.
But I certainly agree with you that he won't be there at 11 or 9 because he will be selected at 4. The one thing that I have in my notes is if somehow there's a shakeup in the top 3 and Sanders does go, you would be hard pressed for New England, and the other selection is Travis Hunter. You'd be hard pressed to not see Abdul Carter selected here at 4. Just something on your radar. I've seen some mock draft roundups where Abdul Carter is the selection at 4, and I think that if it's Will Campbell or Abdul Carter, the Patriots should select Abdul Carter. He's a stud, almost generation.
If Hunter and Sanders are picked at 2 and 3, then I agree. Carter's got to be a no-brainer to New England.
However, it's looking like that's more and more unlikely. So I'm going to go with the safe option and pretty much predict that all of my family in New England will be rooting for Will Campbell out of LSU to protect their franchise quarterback Drake May in the 2025 season. But moving on to a team that my family up there hates, but doesn't really despise because they're never good. The New York Jets, who are currently in the midst of a 14-year playoff drought and sit at pick number 7 in this year's NFL draft with a fair amount of needs, wouldn't you say?
I mean, they need almost everything.
They shored up quarterback by selecting a really consistent and reliable guy in Justin Fields in free agency.
I do like that pick for the Jets, or that pickup for the Jets, though.
I am joking. Yes, I do too. Available. I think that based on who's available, they can make that work. And I think that because of Justin Fields, they're going to have to add another playmaker. They lost Davante Adams to the Rams in free agency, leaving that pass catching room being Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. I mean, Alan Lazard is their number 2. Are we really going to pretend like this is a favorable skill position situation for Justin Fields? I think that you have to go out there and make a selection that helps Fields. And at 7, there isn't really a wide receiver that you can be like, yes, top 10 talent, and he's available right now. I'm going to take him. I don't think that Matthew Golden fits that bill. I don't think Tet McMillan fits that bill. But I do think that Tyler Warren fits that bill. Tight end out of Penn State. He had over 100 receptions, over 1,100 receiving yards. He's a day one bona fide playmaker, and I would really like to see him go here to help out Aaron Glenn and Justin Fields in New York. But if they don't go tight end, they could also go tackle to help shore up the offensive line for Justin Fields. But I do already have him mocked later than this selection. So I guess my lock-in prediction is Tyler Warren. Go big or go home.
I like Tyler Warren for the Jets, not necessarily because of Tyler Warren, but because of Justin Fields. Justin Fields did really well with Cole Kmet, or as well as you could have done in Chicago. I definitely think Justin Fields is going to do well with a tight end. And there's always one tight end that maybe falls a little bit to the back half of number 10 and does really well. I think that was Brock Bowers, and I think that's going to be Tyler Warren this year. Another name that I do want to also throw out is Membu from Missouri. And he's actually who I think is going to be the best tackle coming out of this draft. He's another guy that's gone up on my draft board since we first started covering the draft. Membu has a 90.6 overall grade. He was ranked fifth best tackle in the entire country last season. Pro Football Focus is also giving him a 33% chance to go to the Jets, which is the highest percentage for a player to get drafted by the Jets. And I think just given how beaten Justin Fields was in Chicago, if I'm Justin Fields, I am begging the Jets to draft protection for me. But if they don't do that, then I agree. I think if they don't go with the tackle, whether it be Membu or somebody else, then yeah, I think Tyler Warren is the best skilled position to go get.
I'll debate with you here a little bit because this is a top 10 selection. The Jets don't have a top 3-0 line in the NFL, but they just invested a first-round pick in Fashanu last year. They have a 77 overall graded guard in John Simpson, which is good for 11th in the NFL. They have a top 7 center in the NFL in Joe Tippmann. And they have Elijah Vera Tucker, another guard who has a 77 grade. They do have a weakness at right tackle, as their current player there has a 44 grade. But the tight ends, let me read to you the tight ends on the New York Jets roster currently. Zach Kuntz, Stone Smart, Neil Johnson, and Jeremy Ruckert. Do you know any of those guys?
I'm not saying that tight end's not a need. This is why I think if you're going to draft a skilled position, love the guest appearance here.
Oh my goodness. It's 2 weeks in a row, I think.
Something like that. Twice in the draft coverage, at least.
Definitely. Peanut loves the draft, you guys.
The podcast. But we've got a tight end who, if you're going to draft a skilled position, you got to go get Tyler Warren. But as we've kind of seen with the Chiefs' formula for success is protect Patrick Mahomes. They've after they got destroyed by Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl, they did an overhaul on their offensive line. The Jets don't have a horrible offensive line right now, as you just pointed out. But if you want to go get Justin Fields more help, especially for that right tackle position, I don't blame him. But again, if you're like, all right, we got a solid O-line, we need skilled now, yes, Tyler Warren. That's who you go get.
Fair enough. And I think it's really just a debate between, do you take the potential generational difference-making tight end in Tyler Warren, or do you value Armand Membu higher than that? Because you said you think Armand Membu is going to be the best tackle in the draft. You believe he's better than Will Johnson out of LSU.
I do believe that, yes.
I don't think that's the case. I do think Will Johnson is better, and I do think Membu is good, but I think that there are some weaknesses in his game that may make him not someone you want to spend a top 10 pick on. A lot of teams need offensive tackle, so he will go very early. But when you have a guy like Tyler Warren available and you have a tight end room that looks like New York's, it's a match made in heaven. And
That's
the New
fair.
York Jets can always find a tight end later, a tackle later in the draft. Maybe he's not as good as Membu, but I don't think that you're going to be able to find a late round tight end that's as talented and has had much production as Warren has at Penn State, and would give an immediate jumpstart to an offense that has really struggled over the past couple of years with Aaron Rodgers and whoever else they plug in behind Aaron Rodgers. So
it's fair. And to actually kind of go along with your point, I think there are a lot of tackles that are first round worthy. I think Tyler Warren is the only tight end worthy of going first round.
I think Colston Loveland might give him a run for his money. He's very solid out of Michigan, but I do think Tyler Warren is better than him. And I agree with you that there's only one tight end that deserves to go top 15, and that's Tyler Warren.
That's fair. I do want to shift to the other New York team, and that is the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have the 30th pick in the NFL draft. And by the time we get to pick 30, I think anybody could have gone anywhere. So I think this is going to also come down, similar to the Bengals, as to who is the best defensive player still going to be. 3 names that I would keep an eye on are Maxwell Hairston. Multiple sources mock Hairston going to Buffalo, and them going to snag the former Kentucky Wildcat. Other names that I would also keep an eye out for are Malik Starks, only if he falls.
Malachi Starks.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, Malachi Starks. We've talked about him enough that you'd think I'd get that name right. If he falls, maybe he will, maybe he won't. It's a wild time on Thursday nights for the NFL draft. But the other name is, Zach, you're gonna have to help me with the pronunciation on this one. Who is that Boston College? How do you say that again?
I believe it's Donovan Ezekarakwụ.
Ezekarakwụ. So another name is, I really like Donovan Ezekarakwụ, the interior D-line out of Boston College. He is a tall, 250-pound, 21-year-old who was given a 90 Pro Football Focus grade this past season. He is ranked 16 on the big board. And outside of you mentioning him earlier, I don't see anyone talking about him. It's very likely that Hairston and Starks are both going to be well gone by 30. And I can see the Buffalo Bills getting a great steal off someone that's going to join the pass rush with Joey Bosa.
Gotcha. And everything that you just said, I can absolutely see happening. This is such a tough pick to mock because the Bills are kind of in a unique situation in the sense that they don't have a huge need. You could argue corner, and that's why a lot of people are talking Hairston and other guys in the secondary. But at 30, it's sometimes tough to address those needs because a difference maker at that position that you need may not be available. He may have already been taken. Like the perfect guy at this spot would be Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan, but he'll be long gone. So that kind of sets up a trade down, trade up situation. If you see a guy in range, kind of like the Detroit Lions did last year, like Terrion Arnold falling into the 20s, you make the trade and you go get him. He's a difference maker at the position. He fits their scheme. They made the move. Or somebody that they wanted went earlier than expected. There's nobody available at 30, so they're going to trade down maybe. This is exactly what Buffalo did last year with Kansas City. They didn't see anybody they wanted.
That was wild in its sense, but
I mean, it's wild because we have hindsight, but in reality, the Bills didn't have anyone they valued at that spot and decided to trade out of it. And I think that it's something that this organization does in order to remain competitive and gain draft capital. And if a guy like Siobhan Revel from East Carolina or Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky is not available to fill that need, they absolutely could trade out and select perhaps a pass rusher in the second round that fell, perhaps another player to add to that offense. But I think the only 2 names that I wanted to mention were Revel and Hairston, because I think that they can absolutely make a move at corner if one of those guys falls. But ultimately, I do believe trading out of the first round is a very likely option for the Bills.
I do like that analysis. Is there any chance of a trade at 13 in Miami? Or are they going to stick with their pick 13?
Absolutely. The Dolphins have a lot of incentive to trade either back or up. 13 is really high for Miami in the sense that they don't need to select one of those top flight players. I mean, they have a very solid roster. I mean, they don't need quarterback. They don't need skill players. I mean, Waddle and Hill, they have a really good tight end. I mean, they're in a decent spot when you look at the Miami Dolphins. But
so what do you do if you're the Dolphins at 13?
Right now, currently I have them mocked to select Matthew Golden because I know that they can be so dangerous with 3 skill players in that tight end and Jonnu Smith. But instinct should tell me that they need to take a tackle if one that's worth taking is available. Protect Tua at all costs. I believe their left tackle is Patrick Paul, second round selection in last year's draft. His pass block grade was 55. Do you want to roll with that?
Jeez.
Do you bank on him getting
No wonder
better?
Tua's had so many concussions with that as your tackle.
Yeah, I mean, and then the guy on the other side, on Tua's blind side, their right tackle, is Austin Jackson, who has a pass block grade of 60. So tackles a need. Will a guy like Membu fall? Do you take a chance on Kelvin Banks Jr.? I don't know. I think that it's very interesting, but I do think that outside cornerback opposite of Jalen Ramsey is a big need. And so I have a feeling that you're going to mention something about that.
That's exactly what I'm going to mention. My pick is Jahdae Barron out of Texas for 13. I think Membu and Will Campbell, they're going to be gone for tackle. I don't think the next tackle available is worthy of 13. I think they're more of a later pick. The best corner in Miami is Jalen Ramsey, who is getting older. They also have a solid Caden Kohu. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. The Dolphins need a corner, and Barron is an electric corner who is great in zone coverage. The Dolphins last year were 25th in the league in coverage grades. Barron's best quality is his zone coverage, and he's going to be a great way to patch that hole in that defense. I agree. You got to protect Tua. But you also need to make it easier on Tua when he gets onto the field.
I agree. And Kohu, for context, played the vast majority of his snaps at the slot cornerback position, 450 snaps at the slot. So outside corner is really the need for Miami because Kohu was solid in coverage in the slot position. And I do think this would be the perfect place for Barron to go. I think he's the second best corner in the draft. And I do think that Will Johnson does go before 13. He's just so talented. And another reason why this could be Barron could be the selection is they did bring in Nick Westbrook-Akine, wide receiver out of Tennessee, to help fill that wide receiver 3 role. Westbrook-Akine, while not the most exciting move, did have a 10 touchdown season, I think, a 10 plus touchdown season with Tennessee, and that's with the quarterback play. So you could be excited about Waddle, Hill, Smith, Westbrook-Akine, and Achane out of the backfield. And then, but tackle and corner, one of them will be the selection here at 13.
I agree with that analysis. I think that's going to be where we have to end it today. We've got one more episode of draft coverage before our live mock draft, 7 p.m. the night before the draft, April 23rd. Thank you all once again for joining us on That's DPI podcast.